The latest Pompey news, updates every day from the Pompey Sound news desk.
Pompey are facing a nervous wait over Ebou Adams after the midfielder was forced to pull out of the Gambia's upcoming international friendly against Senegal. Fears are growing for the influential midfielder, who picked up a knee injury late in Saturday's dismal 6-1 defeat at QPR. Adams, who has been a massive hit at Fratton Park since his £500,000 January switch from Derby County, was seen in tears on the pitch after the final whistle at Loftus Road. Head coach John MOUSINHO put this down to a combination of his frustration at the result and the injury he was carrying. Speaking after the game, the Blues boss couldn't give much detail on the problem, but admitted losing Adams would be a big blow as the team hovers above the championship relegation zone with just 8 games to go. MOUSINHO's side next face Norwich on Friday, April 3rd, just 3 days after the Gambia game Adams will now miss. That's followed by a crunch home match against fellow strugglers Oxford United on Monday, April 6th. Whether Adams will be fit enough to play in those key games remains to be seen. Announcing his withdrawal, the Gambian national team's statement on X wished him well, saying, "Ebou Adams has unfortunately been forced to withdraw from the squad for next week's friendly against Senegal due to injury," it read. In his place, Coach Johnny has handed a call-up to Mamadou Bajo. "We wish Ebou a speedy recovery and welcome Mamadou to the squad." Since arriving from the Rams on January 16th, Adams has played 14 times and immediately became a fan favourite, thanks in large part to his equaliser in the South Coast derby against Southampton in just his 3rd appearance. He followed that up with a goal in the 3-0 win over West Brom, and has been a rare bright spark for MOUSINHO's side as they've been dragged into the relegation scrap. His impact was blunted against QPR after MOUSINHO chose to play him in a more advanced role, a decision that has come under fire since the result. It's a mistake the Blues are unlikely to make again, as they try to reverse a horror run of form that's seen them lose 5 of their last 6 games, but with no time frame set for his return, it's unclear when Pompey will have their new midfield general back in the centre of the park. MOUSINHO said after the game on Saturday, "I think he's done something to his knee, I don't know what, but he was icing it in the changing rooms. We're really thin in certain positions. That's one where we're without Doz at the minute and we've been short of options in there. We've been looking to turn that around, so that would be a big blow for us."
The anxious wait to hear just how many games, if any, Ebou Adams is going to miss when we need him the most. From what we know about Ebou Adams, it's clear, I think, that he's a very, very honest man. So no wool is being pulled over any eyes when he tells his national coach that he is injured and not able to go to play for Senegal, to play for Ghana against Senegal in what is, and I'm going to say this, only a friendly. And now, if they had said, well, look, we want you and we need you, but you'll be on the bench. I don't know if players can be told things like that when they've got to make a big flight, big sort of adjustment to the body clock and what have you, play an extra game in a different climate to the one that you're used to perhaps, and then schlep all the way back and unpack and then go straight to the training ground 20 minutes later. That takes its toll. You know, Kosini Yengi will tell you that it takes its toll. So whether he has had a negotiated withdrawal, but rather than say he feels it's not one for him, to his country folk, we'll never know. And whether he has said to his national coach, "I am injured, I will not be ready to play in a couple of days' time. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to play in 12 days' time in a much more important match against Norwich for my club, the club that pay my wages." Whether or not anything like that went on or not, we will never know, but I guess will when he is or isn't available against Norwich and all our subsequent upcoming matches, because if we're without him now for the rest of the season, I think our troubles are significantly magnified. I know everyone agrees with it. I'm stating the obvious there. I know you do, good listener. So once again, on a Pompey Sound News Bulletin, it's with regard to injuries, fingers crossed.
John MOUSINHO is happy that there's an international break and happy about its duration, but wants to get back to work the minute he and his players have cleared their minds.
We need the break, we definitely need the break, and it's really helpful to have the gap. If we'd had a game Tuesday or Wednesday, I know we would have been eager to get back on it, but I think the amount of things we need to dissect and do better, it do help us to have that gap. I'll need to think about how we set the side up, think about team selection, think about how we prepare during the week. From now going back to the games after New Year's Day when we lost to Bristol City, we haven't done what we did at QPR in any game. So we have to figure out why that happened, make sure that between now and the end of the season it doesn't happen again. But also when we do have chances to win games and put points on the board, we need to take them. If we do that, then we afford ourselves afternoons like that, as unacceptable as it was. There's been plenty of opportunities to pick up points, which would make that less of an issue. There's a couple of days off, but not too many because we need to come back and work. There's the mental and physical break the boys need, but you don't solve any problems by being away from the training ground. I don't think we solve any problems in isolation if the players aren't thinking about what they can do differently. I think there's a couple of days where they can do that, then there's a lot of work to do.
John MOUSINHO on the upcoming international break. Well, we're in the international break already, aren't we? Something that you often find yourself thinking when you're listening to John MOUSINHO is that quote of his from a while back, I sometimes tell lies, he said. The implication is that he sometimes just sort of is economical with the truth when it comes to team selection. He likes to keep the other team guessing. I guess most teams do. So he's not unusual or unique in that respect. But when he refreshingly tells the truth and says, I tell lies sometimes, okay, it leads you to wonder occasionally when he is saying something that is almost certainly true because it's what we think, but it also might be a lie for whatever reason. So is he telling the truth or lying when he says he's genuinely pleased about the international break, but on the other hand he wants to get out there onto the training ground and work with the players from the earliest opportunity? All that makes sense. And once again we find ourselves saying it's nice to have a manager who says the kind of things that we are thinking, because he does. Because when Pompey play badly, he doesn't say the opposition just had a red letter day. He will say, we played lousy. And that strikes such a chord with fans. We have to hope that he continues his love affair with Pompey, and that is a two-way thing.
EFL expert Joby McAnuff is backing Pompey's stomach for a fight to keep them in the championship, tipping John MOUSINHO's side to survive by the skin of their teeth. Speaking on Sky Sports, the pundit weighed in on the dogfight at the bottom of the table, where a 6-game winless streak has left the Blues right in the thick of it. The former Wimbledon and Reading midfielder admitted Pompey are a strange team due to their rollercoaster form, but he believes there's still reason for fans to be optimistic during this tough stretch. He says Portsmouth have been there or thereabouts, but they feel like that team who are being really sucked into it. They're a strange team. They made some really good signings in January. Ibu Adams was one of them, and Millie Ali another. I felt that gave them that bit of spark and they picked up some results, but this last run they've been on now is a worrying one. Highlighting Adams' reaction after the recent QPR loss, McAnuff added, "You can see how distraught Ibu Adams is, who's someone I had a spell with at Leyton Orient. He's a really honest and hard-working player who will give everything. That's one thing I will say about this Portsmouth side. They will fight. There's no one in that group who will be downing tools or thinking the battle's too big. I think John MOUSINHO will just about have enough to keep them up." McAnuff wasn't nearly as confident about Leicester City's desire to stay up, especially after a draw at Watford extended their miserable run to just one win in 13 league games. For him it's not about talent, but mentality. "If I was going into one of those teams as a manager and thinking which group has the most quality, it would be Leicester City for sure. But there seems to be bigger problems there," he explained. Gary Rowett hasn't got what many of us expected to get out of that group and find more consistency. While he noted a couple of recent clean sheets were a silver lining, McAnuff was critical of their failures in front of goal. To a man they haven't been good enough, but you cannot be missing opportunities like Patson Daka's missed penalty and open goal. You would think these players who've played in the Premier League and been in teams who've got promoted from the Championship should be taking those opportunities. The whole group needs to take accountability. If they pull themselves together they have got the quality, but have they got the togetherness and spirit? That's the big question for me. In contrast, McAnuff praised the impact of interim head coach James Morrison at West Brom, who has guided the team to back-to-back wins after 13 games without one. West Brom were in reverse and it looked bleak, "I'm not sure I saw West Brom getting 2 wins on the bounce a while ago," he said. "It's huge. If you put that little run together, you give yourself a chance. That's what West Brom have done. They have quality. I can't believe they are where they are. They have really good players in that group, so maybe it's about putting a bit of confidence and feel-good factor back in the group. It was a big call to give him the job, a big decision, but, at the moment, he's giving them a fighting chance."
That's former footballer. He was a winger, primarily played a bit of midfield. Joby McAnuff played a lot of championship football for West Ham, Cardiff, Crystal Palace, Watford and Reading. He moved to Stevenage after that spell of games and very nearly played in the same side as John MOUSINHO, funnily enough, who was on loan to Stevenage just prior to McAnuff turning up. And I don't know much about him as a pundit, but I will say that I like what he has to say about Pompey, and I hope he's right. And he knows his championship football inside out. Looking at his playing career, I'm absolutely certain he's played against Pompey for a number of people on a number of occasions. I can't name any of them, but if you look at his profile, it's clear that he was around when we were around, and he knows the club. And when he says that he is certain that Pompey will fight to the last man to stay up, I really so want to believe he's right, don't you? And I think I do, and I think we will, and I hope he's right. We will stay up by the skin of those proverbial teeth.
When QPR scored their 6th and thankfully final goal with 2 minutes left on the clock of normal time, John MOUSINHO was faced with a difficult decision. However, it seems likely that he didn't find it difficult at all. In fact, he almost certainly believed there was no decision to be made. Goal number 6 swiftly followed number 5, which combined to render what would have been a hugely disappointing 4-1 a near cataclysmic 6-1 drubbing. And his decision was to whether or not to ensure that all his players and he himself crossed to that part of the pitch which was closest to the travelling Pompey fans and show their appreciation. The fans had already begun to show mounting anger at the scoreline, and it was a racing certainty that the players and their head coach would be subjected to hostility and derision. John and his humble team manfully accepted the boos and catcalls, with MOUSINHO wearing an eye-catching white t-shirt rather than his trademark dark blues, almost like the eye-catching panache worn by French officers into battle, in order to show the enemy that they were not hiding. MOUSINHO's gestures and body language, however, were not a statement of courage in the face of adversity, more a commitment to resolution, determination and belief. He no doubt repeated those messages along with other thoughts in the away dressing room, before steeling himself for reporters and searching and at times unflattering questions. One observer noted that it was a peerless display of what the ruling classes call grace under pressure.
Yes, it was diligent and conscientious of John MOUSINHO to make sure that he and all his players went and paid their respects, I suppose is the best word. You can't thank somebody for deriding you or being hostile towards you. You can acknowledge that they've got a point, but I think that's what the best that they were doing. That was the best of their intent when they all went and applauded, I believe, I didn't see it, the Pompey travelling fans who were spitting blood. And that everyone has said, Marlon Pack, I think Conor Ogilvie echoed this, certainly MOUSINHO said it over and over, they completely understand how upset, and I have to use the F word here, how frightened Pompey fans are. How frightened that they're going to have a miserable summer looking at fixtures against teams that we had begun to think of were beneath us in League One. They are frightened of going down, frightened of the humiliation, possibly frightened of being derided at school or at work because they support a team that's had a duff season. All those things are out there, and that produces anger at a result like 6-1, and it also produces fear that it might happen again and again as the season grows old and tapers off and disappears and goes into our history books as being a largely unexpected disaster. Let's hope not.